Get ready to get sticky. Sticky Situations is sponsored by Corona Crush. Corona Crush is creating Jewish couples always. Join the Facebook group. Just search Corona Crush and look out for virtual speed dating events happening every other week. They're 100% free and 100% Jewish. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Sticky Situations. I'm your host, Rachel, which obviously you already know because I'm unforgettable. Everyone, right now, whatever platform you're listening on, if you are not already following or subscribed, press that follow or subscribe button, and also give us a 5-star rating and a glowing review. Nice reviews only, please. Also, you can leave me a comment. I want to hear your thoughts. I like hearing feedback, and I'll respond to your comments. So go ahead and comment. Go follow Sticky Situations Pod on Instagram. Go follow Sticky Situations Pod on TikTok. You can join our Loop group. If you would like to be a guest on my podcast, I'm always looking for more guests. I would love to hear from you. There are applications in all of my Corona Crush posts, or you can send me a DM on Instagram at Sticky Situations Pod, or send me an email at stickysituationspod@gmail.com. Same goes for if you would like to date any of my single guests. As you guys know, I started adding a section at the end where my single guests will tell me what they're looking for. And I also am saying what I'm looking for because I have to get myself married this year too, but we'll get to that in a second. So yeah, if any of my guests sound like they could be good for you or someone you may know, please reach out. I would love to help facilitate some matches. You can also send me a DM on Instagram at StickySituationsPod or send me an email at StickySituationsPod@gmail.com. And again, I'm trying to get myself married this year too. Well, I mean, find someone to marry this year. But yeah, get married next year. So if you think that you're up for dating me, or if you have somebody who you think might be good for me, please feel free to reach out. And again, send me a DM on Instagram at StickySituationsPod or send me an email at StickySituationsPod@gmail.com. I have an extra special guest today. Please welcome my friend Eitan. Eitan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Nice
Of
to be here.
course. Thank you for being here. Okay, Eitan, before we get into your stories and your hot takes and all your opinions and everything, can you please tell me and my listeners just some basic facts about yourself, your age, location, relationship status, and religious denomination?
Sure. So, age 31, actually soon to be 32 in July, as a matter of fact.
Oh, happy
Um,
birthday. You'll be 32
oh,
by the
yeah,
time this is out.
no problem. Born and raised in Teaneck. Religious affiliation. I mean, I grew up like modern, like everybody, but I would say I'm more to the right, like a modern yeshivish kind of a guy. And
Okay.
relationship status, still single,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Okay. Well, everyone stay tuned for the end to hear what Eitan's looking for, and maybe we can change that.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah. So, Eitan, do you want to start with a story?
Sure. So I'll start off by saying like some stories I could give are like not super recent. This one happens to have been,
That's fine.
I don't want to say like a month ago. I met or saw this profile more accurately on like a chat. I have a friend who runs a chat. I'm not going to say his name. And usually when you date out of town people, I don't know your sort of stance on dating out of town people. This girl was not from the tri-state area. I'm not going to say where she was from.
Did she live in the
And we
tri-state area?
No, no,
Okay.
completely not. I'm not. I'm generally pretty open to out of town. I know that's like a hit or miss with some people. Some people are very like anti it. Some people are very
Meaning
like,
like long distance.
yeah. I mean, I wasn't like they're on the East Coast. It wasn't like they're from LA. But in any event, so my general philosophy when you date out of town or when you go with people that are like not New York, New Jersey, to at least at the beginning. I mean, it's kind of ironic because I'm not crazy about Zoom dates, but I think they're a healthy bridge sometimes.
Yeah.
Uh, because before either party makes the schlep, it's just better to, you know, have some substance to go off of. So the Zoom date we went on, I want to say two of them, and they were reasonably well. I found her engaging, and I found, they were a positive sort of like interaction for what you can glean from a virtual meeting. Which, as a side note, by the way, I'm not a big fan of even in jobs, people like do Zoom interviews. Like, think it's very lazy, but whatever. It's, it's always difficult to gauge when you do things virtually, like what the
Yeah.
person's personality is going to be like when you're not in front of a screen. I think people can act more than they're able to really present in person. There's a lot of like, I guess I'll call it showmanship that can go into a Zoom. But anyway, they went reasonably well. We met up in person, and it was like very like, even the like build up to it was just very like weird and difficult. Like I pride myself on trying to be like a flexible person.
Yeah.
But as someone who's got a full-time job, I work 6 days a week, a lot of hours. It was like every attempt to like come up with like a neutral location, like a drivable distance for me, drivable distance for her, was just sort of like no go. She was like, no, I can't do that. Or she gave me like a million caveats to that she could do it, but like with the following five criteria that I was just like, no. And then it was like a lot of back and forth, and there was no shotgun involved, at least at that point. And I don't know how you feel, but shotgunning can help in some ways, but as a 31-year-old, I don't really need help planning a date. Been
Yeah.
doing this long enough.
I
Um,
agree. I agree. I think people like there's no need for a middleman once like it's facilitated. Like if you already, yeah,
no, I,
a
I
30
agree
a
with that.
31-year-old guy should be able to plan a date.
I mean, I've met 31-year-old women that still have their parents do the shidduchim, which is always a fun little red flag for me. But no, I
Wait,
had
really?
once where I dated. Yeah, we could get to it. I dated a girl who was about 30, 31, and it was
Yeah.
like the father was super involved, which was, first of all, that's weird because it's usually the mom, not the dad. But
Yeah.
the mom wasn't even in the picture. I mean, they were married, but I didn't meet the mom. I had to meet the father, which, if you're dating girls from more to the right, that's
Yeah.
typically what's done. But I
Yeah,
still think at 30 years old,
I thought like in the more right-wing circles, like parents are always involved.
yeah, I think people can branch out of that like box a little bit as they get older. Especially, I mean, in that case, the girl was living at home, so it was like a little bit of a different situation. But still, I think if you're 30, 31, 32, or even 27, 28, in my opinion, it's a little bit. It's part of what I'm actually going to get to because we were originally going
Okay.
to go to one location. Like I'm for a first date, I'm like a very like go to a chill location. Don't do
Yeah.
anything like crazy. Don't go to a fancy restaurant. Coffee, ice cream. I'm not so into the hotel lobbies, but that's typically a popular one. So we were going to go to like a Carvel or something to that effect. And she's like, "Oh, that's in a bad neighborhood," my mom says. So I don't really want to go there. And it was like a little bit like, okay, you're asking mommy's permission before you go out. Like it's a little weird to me, but all right. So that was like, again, taken at face value, it was a little bit of a red flag, coupled with all the like lapses in communication. And then we approved on a location, and I was on my way there, and I met her there, and I'm like, I don't see you. Where are you? And then it turns out she met a different location after having already approved that location. So I had to travel another 30 minutes after driving pretty significant amount of time. Yeah, she was also like, it was weird. Like, again, I don't know your stance on this, but I'm not like Mister. You have to get a license at 18, but like at 30 and just not really being comfortable driving. I don't know. Unless you live in Brooklyn, that's like a little weird to me. But
Yeah. I don't
okay,
know. I mean, I live in the city, so I don't have a car.
right. So the city's the
So,
exception, but
so like if a guy says that he wants to meet me somewhere that I would have to drive to, like I'm not going.
right, I hear that. But you're also meeting a guy in the city. Typically, you're not dating an out of towner and driving to meet them.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to guys long distance, but my expectation is that if they want to go on a date with me, at least at like the first date, maybe a second date, like they're coming to me.
Well, and I understand that. I think in my position on that is if you're in the tri-state area, whether it's the guy or the girl, I think you meet the person there because that's like the hub of the Jewish world and the dating world. So
Yeah.
unless you're,
I
serious
don't
and
know. I think the guy should always be the one traveling at the beginning.
yes and no. I think it depends. Like for example, in this case, I was willing to travel to meet her. I just figured a more middle of the road location as opposed to driving however long I drove to her would have been better for both of us. I picked a location that was about a little less than 2 hours for me and around 2 hours for her. So like meeting in a neutral location is a good thing. No, I get it. You want the guy to show that he cares and that he's the go getter. But I
Yeah.
think a lot of these things are case dependent. I don't think there's hard
Yeah.
and fast rules to these things.
Yeah, it's hard to make a blanket statement. Like you have to understand the specific, like there are different situations, but my general rule of thumb for a guy is he has to come to me.
Would you say that if you lived in LA and he lived in New York?
Um, yeah, but I wouldn't live in LA single. Like the thing is, the real truth is, like I live in New York because I'm single. Like I'm not from New York. I went to
Right.
school here. I live here
You're from
for,
Columbus, right?
yeah, I'm from Columbus. Like I would have no life living in Columbus, like no social single life, dating life, anything in Columbus. Like I live in New York for the social life and the dating life and being because I'm single. But yeah, I know everyone's life is not like that, but the way I structured my life is that I'm in New York because I'm single and I probably won't leave New York while I'm still single.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying I've had times where I would drive to meet the girl and the level of inflexibility about where, when, how, it was pretty crazy. I mean, in this case, it was a little bit of an extreme. I'm generally, like I said, a pretty flexible person. Like, I don't even
Yeah.
try taking a girl a place that's like right in her vicinity. But, like, for example, if I'm driving to Brooklyn to pick you up for a first date, we're not going to Manhattan. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
no.
that's just an extra hour plus of the date that I'm not going to get home till 1 a.m., especially coming from
Yeah.
Teaneck.
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, I'm not the most flexible person especially for a first date. I like when a guy comes to my neighborhood because I want to make sure if he's picking me up in a car, maybe it's different because I just like need to know that I'm gonna get home safely. And for a first date, I'm not like risking that. So, but yeah, but that's my thing.
No,
And
I understand that. I just think like if he's picking up something within the Manhattan general area, it makes sense. But like
yeah,
to drive in to meet you and then take you to I don't know downtown Brooklyn or
no, that makes
Queens,
no
like that's just
sense.
a little crazy to me.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
no, I 100% agree. Like, if the guy's coming to me, I don't care where we go. Like, it's I'm very flexible about where we're going. If he's coming to me, he wants to go to a bar, restaurant, ice cream, like fine. There's everything nearby. I don't need to be taken somewhere crazy.
yeah. I mean, also you're in New York. It's easy when you're meeting someone out of town. The options are a lot more limited. It's not like you
Yeah.
have restaurants open till 11 o'clock in the middle of nowhere. In any event, yeah. So I went to pick her up. There was just it was like a lot of like fuzzy details because number one, I'm not used to doing the traveling that far, period, let alone for a date. And number
Yeah.
two, I'm all for picking the girl up. It was a lot of like back and forth communication. It was like, no, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to do that. And then like we agreed, and then it was like, oh, I meant somewhere else. It was a little like,
Yeah, that's hard.
I don't know. Yeah, like head in the clouds almost. Like you know what I mean? Like it was just like she couldn't get her act together. But okay. Then we finally met up for the date and she was a nice enough person, but there was like a lot of like weird stuff going on. Like I as someone who has been labeled that guy who can't pay attention and is like head all over the place, it was like we were talking on a park bench after like I want to say about halfway into the date. He's like, "Oh, what's that over there?" I'm like, "Sorry." Like I was in the middle of talking or telling a story, and I'm like, "What are you? I don't even know what you're talking about." And she pointed to like a flagpole or some sort of light in the sky, and I'm like, "I don't know. It's probably a plane." Or she's like, "It doesn't look like a plane." Like, okay, okay. She said it like rather aggressively. I'm like, okay, maybe it's a helicopter. Like I don't. You think the FBI is coming after you? Like I don't really get what you're asking. Okay, fine. And she wasn't comfortable driving home, which okay. Like I didn't drive her home. I was staying by a person she set me up with. I don't mean in a date. Like she set me up at a house, a
Yeah.
couple that has like a basement apartment that they just give out for dates. It's actually really funny. Um,
Oh, that is funny.
yeah, they have like a designated like room. I don't think it's exclusively for dates, but she said she has guys come from New York all the time, and she lends them that space, and they just sort of stay there. It's kind of funny. And then we what was that? Yeah, so I was getting settled in, like, because I had a pretty lengthy drive the next morning, so I was gonna get up like insanely early. And then she calls me. This was probably like 11:30, 11:45 for like directions on how to go home. And this isn't like she didn't grow up in this area. Like she's from this place where that I'm not going to mention, and she was within 45 minutes of where the date was, and she grew up there. And it was just very strange to me. Like you're calling me. Like I don't like. On the one hand, it shows that she's comfortable calling me and speaking to me about like directions. On the other hand, it's like okay, like I have to drive if I would pursue a relationship with him, like I'd have to drive her to like the local grocery store. Like I don't know, it's just it shows a lack of to
Yeah,
me
also she doesn't have
independence.
GPS.
That's kind of what I thought too. It's like, oh, it's all out of whack. It's not like I made a wrong turn and I don't know where I'm going. But again, I've been there. Getting lost on the road's not fun. But like,
Yeah.
you figure it out. You're not going to get stranded in the middle of nowhere. At least I hope.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was very strange. And then I had a shotgun involved at this point. I don't know when. Not necessarily because I demanded it. She preferred it, so we went with someone I knew. And it was like a combination of the different factors that I was just like, okay, I'm usually like, unless it's a train wreck of a first date, I usually almost always 98% of the time give it another shot,
Hmm.
no matter what. Assuming unless there's like some major red flag that I didn't know about beforehand. And this was the exception because she wasn't close by. If it was like a girl who was more local, I might feel differently. And it was kind of like, wow, that was just kind of like, I don't know if you ever felt like this, but when you had a date, it was like you just had everything sort of thrown at you all at once. And you're just kind of like trying to pick up what you actually feel independent of the different flags flying and whatever. But and the shotgun like was trying to tell her, or she no, I'm sorry, the girl reached out to me like the next day. She was like texting, yeah, of course I want to go out. She was like offended that I didn't want to go out again. I'm like, let's talk later. I'm at work, and she just kept sending me texts, and I'm
Oh.
like, I can't do this right now. And then the shotgun like told her like, she's like he's like ignoring me. He's not ignoring you. He's at work because it was during
Yeah.
the week. It wasn't like a Sunday. He's gonna get back to you later, which is what he said he's gonna do. You need to like take a chill pill, as they say. And I don't know. It was like a world, and then eventually it sort of got. I would have said it, but the shotgun basically said to her, like, explained to her, like he doesn't want to go out again, and I don't know. She acted or felt like we were like in a 6 month relationship, and we went out once. It was like very strange.
That's weird.
Yeah, I mean, like I didn't even. I'm also the type of guy who I'll tell people the honest truth, like no matter how hurtful it is. Sometimes, if they really need to hear it, I'll say it nicely. But like with her, when she was like asking me why I didn't want to go out again, I didn't want to quite say everything about you is off because there's like no real nice way to say that. But like I was struggling to come up with ways to say it, and I'm normally the type of guy who does not have that problem. So it was definitely a different experience.
Could you tell that she was like a little off when you like had video calls with her?
The video calls, no. A lot of the communications were is where I started to get like a little bit what's going on here. The fact that she got her mother's input. Look, there's nothing wrong with asking advice,
Yeah.
but like, oh, my mom said no. I'm like, you're asking her permission. You're 31. She was actually older than me, as a matter of fact. She was 34, which makes it even worse. If she was 22, 23, I might have a different read on it. But the fact that she was a few years older than me and was this chaotic was just kind of like, this is odd.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah. It does seem strange. Like, okay, how long was it from when you first like got set up from until you went on the in-person date?
Probably within a week, including the Zooms.
Oh, like all the Zooms happened within a week.
The Zooms was like let's say a Tuesday and then a Thursday and then I think we went out like Sunday, Monday, like that kind of thing. Sunday night rather.
Oh, oh, okay. So this wasn't because I'm like, okay, sometimes like if it's like I've had long distance things where it's like, okay, it could be a few weeks that and there's texting in between with the video calls, but no, this like sounds like very short.
I mean, it was because again, it wasn't like a Shockman personally recommended it. It was from a chat, which
Yeah.
whatever. I'm not crazy about for myself, but a lot of people that are probably listening to this love chats, so I don't pass judgment. But in my
It's okay.
experience,
You can
it's
share
very
your
hands
on
off.
the problems. I do agree with you about the chats. I think they're great for facilitating sometimes, but people also need to like do their own research and due diligence because resumes and profiles can get forwarded. Like, okay, I have a friend who runs a chat. It's probably the same friend that you have that runs the chat, and like I've seen him post people, and I'll message him, and I'll be like, this person's like a bad person. Like, you should not be posting them.
I'm just curious. Are you basing them being a bad person off of your personal feelings, or are you trying to apply some objective truth to it?
Um, Listen, like I have my personal opinions on people, but I also think I'm a good judge of character. And I've told him about a few people. I'll be like, "Oh, this person's like there's something wrong with that person," like that I've heard and from multiple people. And then some of them I've had personal experiences with that they're just like not good people. Yeah, it might be my own
I'm going to
personal
play a little
bias.
devil's advocate. Just because someone's a bad person, they don't deserve to get posted and get ideas sent their way.
Um, if it means like they're a manipulative narcissist who hates women and is
Oh,
emotionally
okay, fine. That's
abusive to
what you meant.
like
I thought you meant more like they were just like aggressive or like they're. Yeah, that's a little different. That's a little bit crossing a few too many lines when it's a
yeah,
formal chat like that.
like if I personally had an experience with a guy and he was like super manipulative and said really disgusting things about other women and said disgusting things to
Yeah,
me.
that's gross. But I'm just. What do you mean by manipulative? I'm curious.
It's hard to explain without telling the story, and I'm not like down to tell the
You're not going
story.
to do that.
Like,
Okay, no problem.
no, it's
No,
just
I've
like if
met manipulative people. I just
yeah,
think it's a word that gets thrown out there and it means different things to different people.
no, it's just like I had interactions. It's they try to twist everything. Like everything you're saying, they try to twist it and make you seem like the crazy one, and I'm like, hello? Like what? What's even happening? Like what are
Yeah,
you
I've
even
been there.
saying? Like you're like texting me rapid fire and then telling me to calm down. I'm like, I am calm. Like I'm at
Yeah, I
work.
get it.
Like I
It's a
didn't
little bit
say
like
anything.
when you have a yeah, like when you're legitimately upset with someone for right reasons and like
Yeah.
you just need to calm down. Like that's the
Yeah. I'm
worst
like
thing to do.
I'm like, I am calm. Or it's like, I mean, I guess I could say like this one specific person like said something offensive to me and I was just like very put off by what he said to me. So I just like had no interest in like continuing the conversation. Like he just said something offensive and I'm just like I don't like that you said that and I like am offended by that. And like I said that and then I went on with my life. Like I'm not laying in my bed crying about it. I'm like getting ready to like go meet my
How
friends
did
and
your
like
friend who runs the chat react when you told him not to post this person? I'm just curious.
um I think he like deleted the post but then posted him again like a month later because he has the memory of a goldfish. So
I find you have to be. That's why I said I could never run a chat like this because
no.
my way of doing things is I'm either going to service everyone properly or I'm not going to do it at all. That means consistently getting back to people, responding, even if it's a no, like getting reasons, which is something that doesn't really happen nowadays. People don't
Yeah.
give feedback, period, not just in dating chats. That's just like people don't actually people like to put on a show for a lot of different reasons, and I think it's counterintuitive, but that's just me.
Yeah. Wait, let me ask you a question because we're on the chat subject. Okay, let's say that you a woman was posted on a chat and or you were posted on a chat and like you were connected with someone from a chat and you end up marrying her. Do you I know that you have to give like the person who like facilitates the shadchanis, but like is and I know different people have different set like there is no like real set amount for shadchanis. But do you think that they should get as much shadchanis as like if someone like if I was like, oh, I have two friends, I'm gonna set them up.
I don't. And let me put it this way by way of analogy. Let's say I go to a local 7-Eleven or a local grocery store and buy a lottery ticket and then I win. Does
Yeah.
the place that sold me the lottery ticket deserve credit for me winning the lottery?
No.
Right. So I would argue chats are pretty similar. They enabled me to buy a ticket. They gave me like an entry into the theater or whatever you want to use in this analogy, but they didn't actually facilitate money getting into my bank account. I want to be very clear about this. People that run chats are doing a very good service, and for people that like it, more power to you. I just, to me, if I throw a dart at a dartboard and I hit a bullseye, doesn't reflect a skill set of mine to throw darts at a dartboard. I think shadchanis in general, not just talking in chats, has become a very indirect process, and I don't think it's a positive. I think they deserve something. You have to show a karas tov. I think that's very important, and I think you should give them a shadchanis fee. But if they just sort of threw a profile on your desk and you ran with it, that's like me hiring a recruiting company and I eventually get a job from a indirect third party source. Well, yeah, technically they gave me the lead, if you will, but like in a way they didn't. Now, I would say it's different if they sent their resume and they were very involved in the process. If they sent their resume and said, I know this person, it's a great girl, or yeah, once the match was approved or however the chats do it, and then you end up going out and you end up really connecting and you really hit them up with feedback and they're involved as a third party, then I would say they're more or less a regular shotgun that just happened to be representing a chat as opposed to like a service or themselves.
Yeah, it's all interesting. I was like talking about this like as a hypothetical, like I don't know. I had this whole crazy experience with a chat, and maybe I'll tell the story a different
So did
time.
I.
I feel like
Yeah, I had a shotgun stalk me on other chats actually, but I'm not going
oh,
there right now.
really? Okay, so mine wasn't that crazy. I just kind of got into a fight with like the person who runs the chat. I feel like I can't really get into it at this moment in time because I still am technically have a date scheduled, but hopefully eventually I will tell this the full story. So I'm not leaving you guys hanging. I'm just saying not yet. But yeah, and I was like talking to my friends and I was like if I like marry this guy, do I now have to like pay this woman, this like psychotic woman? And yeah, so it's just
I know
been
you didn't ask it. I would also add it becomes complicated because I think halachically a shadchanis fee is it's brought down. What, how, who, when. It's not so simple. I'm not so into like asking that question just because I only really work with shadchanim that I actually like and that I actually gain much utility out of. So
yeah.
for me, giving them a shadchanis fee wouldn't really be much of a question. Yeah, I just think the whole approach, not just the chats of a lot of these platforms, I'm not going to name the names, is let's just throw a million ideas at you and hopefully they stick. I'm not a fan of that. I tell people this all the time. I know people have this assumption that like single guys get a million ideas. I'd rather get no ideas than consistently off target ideas. To me, that's the most defeating thing to get an idea suggested your way that is just completely off base. Because it's like,
Yeah.
what? Do you even like attempt to look at my resume or are you just sort of fishing?
Yeah, I mean like the thing with chats are like there isn't that much thought. It's like, oh, someone's posted and then whoever's interested reaches out or like I guess there are third parties in the group that could theoretically like send the person. But like if you're posted in the chat, like the people you're getting are like the women who reach out who are interested. Which
Yeah,
could be off
I mean,
target, could not be off target. Like when this
well,
woman posted
again, to me,
me,
that's
like,
just like yeah, that's just throwing a bunch of water into the ocean and seeing how far it falls. I'm not a big fan of the approach of let's just play slots at a casino and eventually you'll win because statistically not accurate. I'm not even talking about marriage. Like I've been to many events. I mean, this is getting off track here, but like
it's okay.
I, if the statistical likelihood, if you will, of getting a date out of it isn't high, number one, it's not worth it to me, and number two, I don't like what's their rightful claim of it's a successful chat. How many people actually get dates out of it? I would say not the average person. So it's not really about chats. I want to be very clear because it's
Yeah.
like a lot of trash talking on chats. It's about the whole like platform. Like I've been to events where they'll have several hundred people, but And they're like, yeah, it's a great event. You have several hundred people. Many people go out. You get a lot of weddings. And it's like if you have a singles event of 300 plus people and you get like 20 dates out of it, to me that's not a very high level of success. So I don't really find if you're doing something like that that you're actually putting your effort and resources in the right places.
I mean, I feel like 20 dates from an event, that seems like a solid amount. Like, you also have to remember that like we're seeing it as a very small percentage, but the statistics of people even going on a date are so low. Like,
Yeah, I think
have
part
you
of the
ever
reason
tried
for
setting
that,
people up?
I'm actually bad at it just because I don't know enough people that are single. A lot of my friends from like yeshiva and whatnot are not single. And the few friends I do have that are single, that are around my age, we want very different things out of a spouse. And it's
Yeah.
like it's hard enough for me to like gauge for myself what I need, let alone making that calculus for something else for someone else. I do occasionally try to like throw an idea out there, but like I'm not actually good at it because I'm also like the type of guy who's gonna like expect or want or like dig for a million. Like if you're saying no, like why are you saying no? Because they're not pretty.
Yeah.
They're this. They're I don't know. I'm not a fan of the whole. Okay, move on to the next. Like no. Why'd you say
Yeah.
no? I don't know. I like psychoanalyze it. Maybe too much, but that's just me.
No, I mean, I I also like I do know a lot of people, but I feel like the guys that I know are very different from the women that I know. So it's hard, but I have had ideas and like it's so frustrating just to like get anyone to say yes. Like why like they say no for the dumbest reasons and it's like are you kidding me? Like you know me. Like I'm not just like throwing things in the air and trying to get them to stick together. It's like, "Oh no, like I actually like thinking about you made me think of this other person and like why can't you just give it a date?" But yeah, but my whole point is it's so hard to get people to even go out. So,
My argument is that it shouldn't be, and I think part of the reason why it's so hard is because people overcomplicate it, and I don't think people get pushed enough in the right direction. And that
yeah,
goes for both parties, both genders. It goes for Shafan. I'm not singling any group or people out. I think people in general these days are very shallow. I think it's
yeah,
not just in dating. Like people are less committed to the relationship. Like in our parents' day and age, I don't know how old your parents are, but in my dad's day and age, when he was getting a job out of college, it was like your job for 30 years. Like there was no like
yeah,
unless it was a toxic mess and you hated it, like you just stayed stuck with it. Same thing with marriages. Not that divorces didn't happen back in the day, but it was very uncommon. It was like taboo. It was like, and to be very clear, I know that's a sensitive issue. There are very legitimate reasons, even nowadays, to get divorced. I'm just
yeah,
making a point that in today's day and age, committed relationships and being committed to your relationship is not the same. Like in most people that I know, most young adults, they'll do a job for 2, 3 years, and as soon as they get a promotion offer, they're gone. And I want to be very clear about this. I don't know necessarily think that's the wrong move in certain situations. I just think people need to let things breathe and like actually commit. To me, a first date isn't like a nothing. Like I had a friend. I don't know if I'd take it this far, but I had a friend who said basically when you're going on a date, even if it's a first date, you're meeting your husband/wife. Now find out why they're not. That's a very high level of commitment, but I don't think it's the wrong approach necessarily.
yeah. It's interesting, like going in, like saying, oh, this person is my future spouse. Except, like, I don't know. I guess a lot of dates I go into, I know it's not going to work, but which is a
So then
bad
why'd you do
approach.
it?
Because I have to say that I tried.
Yeah, see, that's my point. If
I'm
you're
waiting to be
doing it,
surprised.
yeah, but if you're doing it, not you specifically, but if you're going in already like, I don't really want to do this, but like YOLO, that's not real established. Like that's like saying I'm applying to be president of the United States. Like no, I don't. There's no way I'm fit for that job, and there's no way I want that job. But I tried. I know that's an extreme. I don't think people do themselves a service, and I know it's difficult. As someone who's been single for a while, I get it. It's very difficult to go in with this mindset of no, this is going to be amazing. This is going to be my person, and unless something drastic happens, we're going to make this work. But I think
Yeah.
people need to like suck it up a little bit and go in with a very committed mindset, because I don't think people, I'll speak myself. I've been single long enough. It's time to stop with the like, well, let's give it a try. Like, if it makes sense, go for it and don't stop. If it doesn't make sense, don't go for it.
Yeah, I mean, granted, like I stopped saying yes a lot more often than when I first started dating, but still sometimes like I'll go into a situation like okay, the last guy I dated, like I don't know why I agreed. Like he wasn't religious and we had this whole conversation and it wasn't the first time we spoke and like I think subconsciously I knew a whole like all of me knew that it wasn't going to work, but I was like, okay, let's see. And like of course it ended badly, but like at least I don't have the what if. Like if someone's like
Is that the
100%.
only reason you went out with him, to avoid the what if?
um to be honest, I don't know why. I don't know why I did it. I shouldn't have. I probably like looking back now, like I think it was just like a complete waste of my time and energy and didn't know it didn't add good to my life. Like it just kind of made like put me back into like a bad place. It was a stressful time in my life in general and like it was just added stress. But I don't know, at least I don't have that what if. Like to be perfectly honest, like I talked to this guy 3 years ago and then he reached back out. Like it didn't go anywhere 3 years ago because the religious stuff. And he reached back out and like throughout the course of when we dated, it was very clear that he had been thinking about me a lot over those 3 years. Like I
That's a little
really
weird to me.
I really like moved on with my life. Like I I'm the type of person like yeah, I will beat a dead horse, but I do also move on and like once someone tells me that like they're not in my life, like I'm not looking backwards. Like yeah, I could talk about
Yeah,
it
I hear that.
and be annoyed about it, but like at the end of the day he was just like a boy I had a video call with, like one video call with and like maybe texted for a week from a dating
It's
app.
a little
Like
bit like this. I went out once and she's acting like we were married for 6 years.
yeah, I mean, listen, like this time around like when we went out, like it was like 2 months, like fine, that wasn't nothing. But after our one video call and maybe a week of texting, like, okay, like, do you know how many guys I talk to from dating apps and then have one video call with? Like,
So you're a popular gal, is what you're telling me.
not so much anymore, but over the last three
I'm kidding.
years, there were a lot. There have been like a lot of people, and maybe not that I've gone out with, but like random guys I chat with on dating apps. Like, if I held a torch
I'm just
for
curious. You brought up the religious aspect. Do you feel religious compatibility is high up there on your quote unquote list?
yes. And I mean, you'll hear when we do our like deal breakers and our wants or whatever I say that the whole list is, which I finally got right. You guys will have heard when I got it right, but it took me a few episodes to get it right. But yeah, I think especially after this experience, like I'm very scarred. I was already scarred before because I had a different relationship that ended for similar reasons, and I think this was my like reminder like no, this we need to find something compatible. But at the same time, I think everyone and granted, I'm making this comment and I know I'm also guilty of it. I think we think of Hashkafa in very like tiny boxes. And we try to fit everyone in the teeny tiny boxes. And if they don't fit into the same teeny tiny box that we fit into, we completely write them off. And like, yes, there are some really big things that you need to be on the same page about. But I think people might be a little bit too trying to
Closed
fit in.
minded?
Yeah, a little bit too close minded when it comes to Hushkuffa. And yeah, I know that I'm guilty of
It's
it.
interesting.
I know I'm
I
guilty of
we've
it.
I think there's a level of truth to that, but I would also argue that there is a level where people aren't closed minded about their hashkafas enough. I mean, I'll put it to you this way: I have friends that are not not as religious as me, let's put it that way, but
Yeah.
still pride themselves of being religious people.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not getting into like different levels of from or whatever subjective adjective you'd like to use, but there are certain things that if you're a religious person, you should just plainly not be okay with in a potential marriage partner, and they are. So it cuts both ways. I think it
Like
really
what
depends.
can you like give me an
Like,
example of like what kinds of things?
well, I'll put it this way. I'm not giving a Torah lecture here, but if you're an
No.
Orthodox Jew who wants to live a frum lifestyle when you're married, like take a woman covering her hair.
Hmm.
I'm not here passing judgment on anyone, but that is not like a cutesy minog. That's like a legitimate requirement of Torah law. So if you're someone who's like not so particular about that, but you claim to be a very religious person, to me that's a little bit off because that is something you should care about. Now, if you meet someone and you hit it off and it's like everything's amazing, it could be you can shift your value system. But like to me, that's just an example. I don't equate that any differently than Shabbos, kosher, like that all is part and parcel of what being a from Torah Dika Jew is. Now, I think people have their quirks and people have things that are like will set them off. Um, but like the people that I trust in life, like that's not something they're willing to compromise on.
Yeah.
There are things that you can, like I don't, for example, I'm not saying this is the same level. I'll eat chalav stam. If you're a person who eats chalav Yisrael, and that's like a very big deal for you, like your Chabad, and Chabad treats chalav Yisrael as it's like the ultimate thing, then I get it. But I'm just saying is that there are things that are like very not negotiable if being an Orthodox Torah Jew is what you want. And there are things that you can be a little bit more flexible on. Secular music, I mean, there are people that would tell you if you listen to secular music, you're like going off the derech. So I mean, like it's a very different world we navigate in. But like that's why I picked examples that is less ambiguous.
Yeah. Where and like listen, I I'm not claiming to be a Tordic Jew, however you pronounce that word, but I on the other hand would I have different definitions of like what I consider like oh, base level Orthodox. Like I'm very modern. Like I wear what I want to wear. I don't plan on covering my hair when I'm married. But for me, what I'm like basing mine off of is like keeping Shabbos, keeping kosher, and keeping some level of like family purity.
Okay, and
Like,
if that's what you're defining as a observant lifestyle, then those are the things that you shouldn't compromise on. Which you
yeah.
said before, like dating someone who didn't keep Shabbos was probably a mistake.
Yeah. No, so like I guess like within Orthodoxy, but at the same time, like would I date I and this is like something that I've thought about more recently because I think I'm very comfortable where I am religiously and uh, like okay, when I think about dating someone who's not my religious level, I always think about dating someone who's less religious. But I was talking to friends or whatever, and we were talking about, like, oh, would I date someone more religious? And, like, I don't, and maybe like a few months ago or before this experience, I would have said, absolutely not. Like, that is not something I want to do. I don't need someone telling me what to do and judging me. But I feel like if you, I don't know. I think I am more open minded. Like, yes, I'm not going to date someone who identifies as like yeshivish and is going to be mad that I'm not going to cover my hair. But I think
Well,
there
why would
is
someone like that even want to date you? Would be my question. Nothing
no,
personal. I'm sure you're lovely.
yeah, no, that's true. But I don't know. I think there is middle ground. There's like so much middle ground that it's like, I think sometimes we need to be maybe a little bit more flexible on certain things.
I think that's true. I just think that what you can be flexible on is something people have to be more ironed out. I'm saying we live in this world where like Shabbos and kosher are defined as the most important like mitzvos to define orthodoxy. And I'm not saying they're not important. They're two very crucial things. An Orthodox Torah Jewish lifestyle, however you want to describe it, has certain things that go along with that. Now, I'm not the one who gets to decide that. I think each person has to decide what level they're comfortable with. But I
Yeah.
think ultimately, like the idea that rules are flexible is a slippery slope, is all I'm saying.
No, it's definitely a slippery slope. I'm not saying what I'm doing is halachic, but
No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not here to critique anyone. I'm just saying is that if you're a person who wants a Shomer Torah, Shomer Shabbos, and a very like religious home, and then you tell me you're like, I don't know, I'm not gonna put descriptions on it, but you'll do things that don't reflect that. I'd be like, well, either you're lying to yourself or you're not as clear on what your definitions are.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like also this day and age, like the or the Orthodox world is even more divided than it used to be. Like there's so many sub levels of Orthodoxy that
Do you think that's a positive thing, though?
no.
I don't. That's why I'm curious what you think.
No, I don't think it's a positive thing because I don't know. You also have to remember that I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. So like in Columbus, Ohio,
I hear that.
at
Yeah, I don't know
least
this circle.
at least back in like the early 2000s or 2000s through whatever. I graduated high school in 2012. So 2000s, 2010s, like everyone like coexisted. Like there were kids in my class who were yeshivish. There were kids in my class who didn't keep Shabbos. There were people all the way everywhere in the middle, and like we all just coexisted, and we were all friends. We all lived in a community together. We all did the same things. Like I had okay, maybe not the ones who like didn't really keep Shabbos, but I don't know, on Shabbos afternoon, I would hang out with my friends of all religious levels. Like we're all keeping Shabbos. I felt like there was less differentiation because it's
It's
also,
interesting. When I was in high school, we didn't like it wasn't the thing to have a smartphone. Like you graduated 2012, I graduated 2013. I got one towards the end, but like my first couple of years of high school,
yeah.
90% of kids had like a regular flip phone. That
Oh,
was
I
what
didn't I
people
didn't have a
had.
smartphone. I didn't get a smartphone until seminary.
Yeah, ironic
Like,
how that works, isn't it?
yeah, like I mean, but that's when smartphones really like started being a big thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I guess like my background is like, yeah, you knew that people observed a little bit differently, but it wasn't so divided. Like the community was still the community. You're in shul with all the same people. It's like, okay, but she wears short sleeves, she wears long sleeves, like eh, I don't know. It wasn't so black and white different. Whereas now, like now that I'm in New York, and I guess like maybe you can give your input on this, like growing up in the tri-state, like everything's so much more divided. Like different communities are like specific ways. And it's like if you want to be part of this community, you have to be this way. Or it's this side of the community and that side of the community, and this side is like this and that side is like that. And it's not it's not like everyone coexisting even though they're different.
So I'm curious though, do you attribute that to your growing up in an out of town community like Columbus, which is just not, it's many things. I don't know that much about Columbus, but it's not New York. Or do you think that's just the way things were back in the day? Because to me, those are almost two separate points. I don't know what it was like growing up in Columbus. You can shed light on that. I do think things were a little less divided, but I would also go and say having a reality where things are very clear and there's separation, I don't think it was a negative. I think it can get to too far a level where you start alienating people and distancing people and pushing people away, and that's not a good thing. But I think the danger of having too much of an inclusive mindset is that you start bending the rules. Someone once told me when you start making rules negotiable, they're no longer rules and they become everyone can just do whatever you want. I had a rabbi in yeshiva who used to say, there's 613 mitzvahs in the Torah. If you want to start saying there's 612 or 614, it's no longer Judaism. It's isms. It's Rachelism. It's Eitanism. And it's no longer Judaism. So all I'm saying is having too much of an inclusivity to the point where the breakdowns in standards it just becomes complete chaos and it just becomes a complete melting pot of everything. And it becomes very hard to sort of find your niche even. I don't, I mean, where I grew up, it was a little bit the opposite extreme. It was just like, it was boxed in, but not in the way you're talking about. It's like you're either this modern young Israel kind of a person or like get out. And I didn't like have the like quote unquote yeshivish mindset when I was 5, but it was not like I never was like a guy who having like the young Israel mindset shoved down my throat was something I ever was going to really love. So I think it really depends. I don't know that it's a timing thing. I just think people need to have a healthier understanding of boundaries and rules and where you can be more inclusive, where you can't. And that's why I think it's important to have guidance, particularly in the religious level, rabbinic guidance. But I don't think in general you're incorrect.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I don't fully believe in rabbinic guidance. I think a lot of rabbis are not good people and I think they don't do good things and I think a lot of the rules that they made up are just to torture women and to have basically a pissing contest. But those are my opinions. Those are like my very, very
Are you talking about
complex.
contemporary rabbis or are you talking about like Talmudic figures? Because those are two very different things.
Um, Probably a little bit of both, but these are my like again, it's not a fully researched opinion, and I'm not saying that I think the more you learn about religion, the less religious you want to be, but I don't know. Like I try to keep my feelings and opinions about that to the in one little box because like at the end of the day I'm still Orthodox and I still want to live in the Orthodox community and I'm not just like gonna throw away religion. And I believe in God, I believe in Torah. But yeah, these are getting into my like really complex thoughts on religion. But I guess like that also shows like in dating, those are two things. Like someone who's very reliant on rabbinical guidance and someone who isn't, like maybe wouldn't work so well.
Well, I also just think it's important. I think we all, at some point in our lives, I'd like to think, mature enough to make our own decisions.
Yeah.
But even within that, like if you're 65 and you're not sure about something, you can't always rely on your own judgment. It doesn't have to be a rabbi. You need someone to help steer your, put you adjust course, if you will, that's not so involved in the situation. It used to be, for example, in dating, like that was the role of the shotgun. Like the shotgun was there to literally put you up towards the chuppah. It wasn't just like, here's your resume, have a nice day. Like, I'll also add, like the like shidduch system, if you want to use that word, the way it is today, was not how it really was. Like even in the communities in Europe, like there was you're a nice Jewish guy, she's a nice Jewish girl, you guys grew up in the same area, now you're married, and that's how it happened. Obviously, that's not the world we live in today for a lot of
Yeah.
different reasons. So that's not going to really work. But this role of just I'll send the information to you and then hands off. I don't know that it's a positive. I think there's negatives to having shadchanim very involved as well. I think shadchanim are humans and they're people, and everybody makes mistakes. But
Yeah.
I think the ideal is to have someone who's actually going to facilitate, because that word gets thrown out there, and to me, just putting a resume on my desk is not facilitating anything. Like I
Yeah.
don't like, frankly, in my own personal dating life, I don't look at a resume, but like doesn't really tell me what I need to know. And even when I make reference calls, which I don't know how you feel about, but I think you have to ask better questions, you in the colloquial. But even then, people don't really tell you what you want to know. So you have to really rely on where the idea is coming from. At least for me. I don't know about
Yeah.
you. How do you filter out your ideas?
So like I'm not really in the shidduch system per se, like quote unquote shidduch system. Like I don't I guess maybe from groups or random people, like a resume is like what you get. I have never once made a reference call, but it is interesting because I will say, like, I've had friends who have had very bad experiences with guys who like came from a more like shidduch system type setup where reference calls were made and everything. And you put down your references of people you know who are going to say good things about you. And also, I think people can know people in one context, but not really know them so much in another context. And like, I don't really know how my friends are with dating. I would like to think that my friends who I think are just good people in general are also going to be good people when it comes to dating, but I don't know that. And
You're not biased at all either.
I mean, I am biased. And like, if anybody is, well, okay, here's the real truth. If I saw something, I would be honest with the person and I would be honest with anyone. Like, I'm not giving my, I've had problems in the past of giving blind loyalty to people, and people don't always deserve blind loyalty. So like if a friend tells me a situation and I think that she's in the wrong, I'm going to tell her that I think she's in the wrong. Same with a guy. Like if a guy friend also tells me a situation and I think he's in the wrong, I'm going to tell him. And you guys have heard me tell podcast guests when I think they're in the wrong. Like I'm always going to say when I think something isn't right. But yeah, I think for me personally with filtering people, I will say a lot of the people I've gone on dates with are from dating apps, and that is really hard to filter. That I would sometimes try to like look them up on social media, see if we have mutual friends, maybe ask a mutual friend. Like if you ask someone who like isn't on the resume, like they're like designated reference, then maybe it's a little bit less biased. Like, I don't know, like I got set up with someone from a
Well,
group.
that's why I think it's relevant what you're trying to accomplish. If you're just looking for like gratification that this person's worth going out, you'll probably get that. If you're looking for like skeletons in the closet, it's harder to get that. That's why I think people need to ask like tougher questions and people need to give tougher answers. Like for example, not me, but I have friends who, if people ask me, does this person have an anger issue? I would not be comfortable saying no, he doesn't. I think that person in particular does have an anger management problem. It's not excessive, but he's a person that when he gets angry, it's not a pretty sight. Now, I don't know how the right way to answer it and say that is, but I feel like that's something a person should volunteer. Now, anger was just an example. Like, I don't know, does he smoke? If you know for a fact he smokes and you say no, that's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll always give my honest opinion when asked about somebody, but a lot of the times, like, someone will say, "Oh, I saw that you're a mutual friend on Facebook. Like, what can you tell me about this person?" It's like some random kid I knew back in YU. Like, I don't know. Or like some kid I went to camp with 20 years ago. Like, okay, like I could tell you I went to camp with him. Like, I don't know anything else about him. But it has happened before. Like someone actually once asked me about a guy who I didn't date, but I had a friend of mine dated and I interacted with him and my friend had a bad experience with him and my interaction with him was not the most pleasant. And I told her. I told the girl, I'm like, "Yeah, this is what happened. Go for it with your own judgment." But I also find like I'll always, and I think this is more status quo in like the shidduch dating world, like I'll always have a phone call with someone. Like
Right.
I don't
I hear that.
usually agree
I
to go
respect
on a
that.
I usually don't agree to go on a first date without having a phone call with someone. Mostly it's just to like get their vibe and
Yeah, it's a
like
little bit like what I was doing with the Zoom call with this girl that was out of town. Like just to see if there's anything there that, you can latch on as, this is something to work with.
yeah, I will say it's like mostly to get their vibe, but sometimes like I could catch a bad vibe on the phone and I'm not saying like oh just like incompatible. Like I could catch if somebody's like shady or like giving me a creepy vibe and then like yeah, okay, really I can't do it as well as in person. Like in person I can tell right away if someone makes me feel uncomfortable, but it does give me a little bit of a better idea and then I don't know. Sometimes it's just like, okay, I bring my taser, I have my friends with my location
I had
and
once
just
where I was on the phone with the girl. I felt like I was on trial, but yeah.
oh really? Did you go out with her?
No, I didn't. And she was quite upset. I'm like, okay. I mean, well, I shouldn't say that. She wasn't upset. I don't know. It was a while ago, but like I had a phone call with her, and it was like straight up, like without even like, "Hi, how was your day? How much money you make?" She didn't say it using those words, but that was essentially the question. And I'm like, "Okay, we're going that way. All right, fine." And it was just kind of like, okay, it's a little bit. Which, as a side note, I don't have any problem with the person like prying more into that like question, but like, hi.
Yeah. I like to start with like, oh, did you kill anyone? Like, did you commit any crimes?
I'm not currently wanted by any federal governments. You know, currently being the
Like,
operative.
are you gonna try to kidnap me? Like, get that vibe. And then it's like, okay, how much money do you make?
Yeah, yeah, okay. You know,
But
those are the
no,
order. You know,
I'm just kidding. I'm mostly kidding.
I get
No,
it.
I mean,
I get it.
I I wouldn't necessarily go out with someone who doesn't have a job.
Even if they're like in school.
I mean, like I'm 32. Like, what's someone in school for at 32?
Let's say they didn't go to medical school till they were 26.
Okay, if he's in medical school, he's gonna be a doctor. Fine. If he decides to go back for a
So you're
second
predetermining how much money someone's going to make based on their job title.
it's not about the amount of money per se. It's like I want someone who is like career driven.
So in your mind, is someone who has a job and he's working, even if the title doesn't roll off the tongue, is that good enough for you?
I mean, it's not a reason for me to say no.
Okay. Many
It
people
could
would say differently.
it could be like, let me see like if I like the person, but it does get to be it is a factor that I consider.
No, a person should, if you're assuming you're not, I don't know, I'm assuming you're not dating colo people, should
No.
be having should be having some sort of career. I'm just saying, in my personal opinion, a person's job title and how much money they make are almost completely different. So, like,
Yeah, no, I
you don't need to
agree.
be a doctor or a lawyer to be having a career. Is all I'm saying.
No, 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 that's not what I'm saying at all. Like, but if somebody's like, "Oh, I'm a mashgiach," I'll be like, that," or
I'm actually
like,
a mashgiach, so I'm not the least bit of. And no, I'm kidding, but
or
I am a
like,
mashgiach.
oh, or like, I run a restaurant, like, and by run a restaurant, I mean like I'm a manager of a restaurant. Like, okay, like let's talk more. Like, let's figure out what that means.
It's funny you say that because that's actually textbook what I do for a living. But we can
Oh,
get into
really?
that another time. I run the kosher department in the store. It's not necessarily currently what I want to do long term, but working in the kosher field, the kosher field, is where I do see myself ending up. But I put it this way, my perspective is just completely different than most people's about job, not my own personal career, but just about the importance of a job in general. I think a career is an important part of not just making money and supporting yourself, supporting wife and children. It's a lot of it is self identity to people. Like you're a little bit defined by your job, and to be very clear, there's nothing necessarily wrong with a person who's doing something they're passionate about and they enjoy it. And it's very important for people to find what they're looking for in life and really go with that. I'm just, if you're a person who, like myself, is trying to live a life of a Muna, your outcome of what how much money you end up in your bank account and what you do for a living. I'm not going to go so far as to say are diametrically opposites, but they're not tied together. Kodesh Baruch Hu determines how much money a person makes. It's not based on what your quote unquote job title is. Now I do admit, like if a person's a garbage man and you don't want to go out with him because that's not like a legitimate job path,
I
I
think garbage men
understand
make a lot
that.
of money.
They get a lot of tax benefits. That's the truth. It's not really like income. It's like a lot of like a cop does
Also,
not
they're
make a lot of money.
government workers have great benefits.
When there is a government, we had some times where there wasn't. It was shut down and people were
True.
without work for a month and a half.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
in any case, I think people get tied up in the details a little bit. And if a person's doing what he likes and he's doing what he's good at and he enjoys it or she enjoys it, ultimately to me that's what matters. Not, I mean, again, obviously someone has to put bread on the table. And if you're
Yeah.
making a job that's paying you $15 an hour, that's not going to really cut it.
Yeah.
But
So I'm of the opposite opinion because I'm an accountant and like who wants to be an accountant? But like I'm a numbers person. So I'm more like I as long as I don't hate my job and like I don't hate my job, I enjoy my coworkers. I enjoy what I do enough. Would I say I'm super passionate about my job? No. But what I am passionate about is being able to afford to live the life I want to live.
Okay, but you could do a lot of things. It's not limited to accounting.
Yeah, but like I'm trained in accounting. This
No,
is,
go for it. All I'm saying is your ability to live the life you live is not based on what you're currently doing for a living. Is all I'm saying. It's not dependent on it. One does not preclude the other.
I mean, it kind of does because I need money.
Yeah, but you could get a different job if you were really hating your. And you said you don't hate it, so like
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not
no, no.
saying
If
that.
I hated my job, I would look for a new job. I'm an accountant. I mean, the job market all across the board is bad, but or so I've been told.
Accounting is like a useful skill. Like you could work in accounts payable, accounts receivable, which is technically accounting, but not really accounting.
Yeah, but
Whatever.
these jobs are not like what I'm trained in. Like I work in
No,
like
no, I get it.
high
I'm just
I
saying the
work in like
person doesn't.
corporate. I work in like
Yeah, no, I
corporate
get it.
like it's that's like a fraction of like what the jobs that I've been at. Like I'm not like saying like, "Oh my God, my job is like whatever." I'm not trying to make myself more important than I am, like by all means, but I'm just saying I have the job I have because I it allows me to live the life that I want to live.
Are you saying that based on income or the job?
I'm saying that well, right now based on income, because like I don't think if I had a family, like my job would be very hard to maintain with children and a
It would be
family.
very hard, or it wouldn't.
It would.
Okay.
Like my job's very demanding.
Isn't every job demanding?
Yeah, but
No,
like
I get
I
what you mean. I get what you mean. I'm just being
yeah,
annoying.
like I work long hours and like I'm not delusional about that, but right now I don't have a family and
Long hours, like you don't get home till 10 o'clock at night, or like long hours, like 8 to 6.
no, I mean certain times of the year I don't get home till 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, tax season. You're probably nuts.
Well, I work in corporate accounting now, so quarters, but yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my father works in the accounting department actually.
Yeah,
Um,
so it's like I know we've totally digressed on the topic, but like because that's my view on it. I'm not the type that it's like, "Oh, follow your passions and like God will provide." I'm more like be realistic, do what you need to do to live, and like you can't just like rely on other people or God.
you can't rely on other people. I would push back on you can't rely on God, but that's a conversation for another day. I'm not telling people to blindly have faith that you're going to have money. I'm telling people that you don't need a PhD attached to your name to make an income to support a Jewish family.
I mean, well, I would beg to differ. Well, maybe not a PhD, but like I don't know. I think trying to support a Jew, I think part of the whole, I think it's a whole crisis in the Jewish community of people not being able to afford to
Well,
support a
I think
family in the Jewish
tuition is
community.
mad expensive. That's true. But there are plenty of people. I mean, it's not always without struggle, but there are plenty of people that can get married and have children and have a wonderful Jewish home without one of the parties having a fancy job title. All I'm saying is people's priorities. If you're trying to get married, the focus should be on meeting someone who fits your subjective criteria, whether that's, in my opinion, mensch, or she's whatever the female equivalent of a mensch is, has good midos. So if your focus is on externals, I would argue a person is not approaching it with the healthiest, maturest outlook. And that goes for guys and girls. I tell all my single guy friends all the time, you're too focused on looks.
Yeah.
Your focus should be on other things. Now, to be clear, there obviously has to be a bar that's cleared, whether that's in finances, how much money the guy's making, or the girl's making, looks, whatever the subjective measurement is. But if your focus is on something that's external to the person, like I had this once where a girl didn't want to go out with me because I wasn't tall enough. I was not the least bit offended. I told someone, why would I, like, they were surprised. I'm like, what am I supposed to do, grow?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I'm 5'7" for the record. It's not overly short, but I would not consider myself a tall guy. She wanted a tall guy. Okay, move on. But I just think if that's the person's focus, I mean, height isn't like I'm not even going there. I think for girls, I get it a little bit, but like I think people's focus has to be more on the internal importance than the external. That's my
Yeah.
opinion.
No, I 100% agree with you. The amount of times that I've tried to set people up and the guy's like, "Oh, she's not my look." It's like, what's wrong with you?
Well, again, there has to be a bar cleared. I just think people's bar is ridiculously high.
Yeah.
Like my philosophy, I tell this to my friends all the time. Like she's not 300 pounds and four moles on her face and ugly as a troll. Like, give it a shot. What's the worst that's going to happen? And I'll go a step further. If I go out with a girl and unless it's like a huge red flags are flying, like she's just like I had once. This was many years ago. Like the date was over in like 45 minutes. Like I don't know if you've ever had this where like you dated someone and it was like you trying to engage them in a conversation. It's just like one word answers to everything. It's like an interview. Like you wouldn't
Yeah.
want to make it an interview. You're just trying to like, how was your day? It was good. What do you do for a living? This. It's like, okay, this is going nowhere. And it was like at the end of it, she's like, "Can you just take me home now?" I'm like, "Okay, so you're miserable. You just wasted my time. Why'd you want to go out with me to begin with?" That wasn't really clear. But again, short of something like that, I think it's always worth a shot. That's generally my approach. Once you've agreed to go out, you can say no to as many people before that. That's my
Yeah.
approach anyway.
No, and I think also like once you agree to go out on a date, you should like actually try to engage. Like like you're already there, just engage. It's then it won't be a complete waste of time, like whether you're interested or
Well, I
not.
also just think it's rude, but that's just me.
Yeah. No, I agree. Even if I go out on a date, I've gone out on dates with guys who are so, I mean, this is not recent. This is like way back in my day before I started screening better. Like I've gone out with guys who are socially off and like I was still engaged on the date, like trying to ask questions, trying to have conversation. Meanwhile, internally I'm like, get me out of here.
What's your definition of socially off? I'm just curious.
Like weird, creepy on the
Like
spectrum.
like picking your nose in public? Like what are we talking?
I would say like mostly on the spectrum.
Like okay, all right. I'd say people like to throw out socially off like as a thing, and often it could be chalked up to nerves. No, don't get me wrong. There's legitimately many people that are just socially not with it.
Yeah.
But like for example, I know people personally that are the father or the mother is completely socially off, and they're married happily for many many decades.
Yeah, that's fine. I think sometimes it works for people. And like I've met people like sometimes it works for some people. For me, it just doesn't work.
No, no, I get it. I wouldn't want to date or marry someone who's socially. I'm just saying is that a person's subjective criteria for what that means can often get blurry. Is all I'm
Yeah.
saying on that.
Yeah, and I'm not by any means trying to offend anyone who's listening who might be on the spectrum or who might be considered off, but like these are just my very vague trying to be politically correct definitions. Because I don't want to offend anyone and I really do appreciate all of my listeners and also just because I don't want to date someone who is a certain way doesn't mean I don't like them as a person and don't think like they should date people or deserve to find
You don't think they're a
someone.
bad person. They're just not for you. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. And like, yeah. So, I mean, I try to gauge it now. Also, socially off could just be like kind of weird or like odd or like quirky. Like, I think we all have our little quirks and a little bit of weirdness, but it doesn't always match up with each other.
No, correct. I agree. It has to be a level where it's not going to bother you. I mean, like if
Yeah.
you're going to be in a relationship with someone and their personal ticks just throw you up a wall, like it's a really bad idea to enter a relationship with that person. But all I'm saying is everyone has to gauge that for themselves. And often it's like if it's slightly off, I'm out. And it's like, okay, it's not going to be a perfect fit like the glove every time. It's just not life.
Yeah. No, 100%. And different things are off to different people.
Correct. Correct.
But
Like I had that at work once where I said excuse me to someone, but I might have slightly bumped into them. Like you don't have to touch me. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right. Someone woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning, but okay. Stories about work could be another podcast in and of itself. Um,
yeah. No, it's yeah, everyone has their own interpretation of certain things, and I don't know. I think the call definitely helps. And like if you're really genuinely not interested in going on a date with someone, you shouldn't agree to go out.
No, I agree. I think
Save
people just
everyone
say
the
yes.
time.
Well, yeah, I'll say yes because I have nothing else going on, and it's Hashkafa or it's whatever, checking a box, and it's just like no,
That's
you're
why
wasting your
that's
time, and there's
that's why I say yes to a call. And then if you really don't want to go out with someone after a call, like don't do it. Just say no.
yes, just say no. That's Rachel motto for life.
Yeah, just say no, which I don't even follow myself. Actually, it's my say no summer. It's my no commitment summer. But it's
Oh
less
yeah,
about
are you,
dating and more about social activities. I don't know. I just feel like last summer I overly committed myself to a lot of different things, like to friends. And I do believe you need to be a friend. Like, I think if you expect a village, you have to be a villager. But I think last year I just like, my problem is I feel guilty about everything. Like, if I say no to something that I really don't want to go to, I feel so guilty about it. So then I end up saying yes, I end up going, and I end up being miserable and I end up regretting it.
I have the opposite.
So,
I just don't go. People are like, but you might have a good time. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I won't.
no,
So
so
I'm not
like,
going.
so like I think recently, like I've talked about it on certain episodes, and I'm not trying to like put any downers. I think the last year or so in my life have been interesting, just with various things that I've gone through, and it's been interesting to see like which friends are there for it, which friends I even tell about stuff, which friends know, which friends check in, and which friends just don't. So I decided, why am I overextending myself to people who wouldn't do the same for me? So, like, and also, I'm just not putting myself into situations that are going to stress me out anymore.
Yeah, I don't have to put myself in stress situations to stress me out. They just sort of happen to me anyway, no matter what I do. So it doesn't
No,
really
I mean,
matter.
they happen to me
I know exactly
too.
what you meant. Yes, you put yourself in positions that are going to make you feel, or something's going to happen that's going to make things uncomfortable. I get it. Like if you go to an event, at least for me, which I know is not going to be for me, but I go anyway. Now I don't do that personally. Like if I know it's not for me, I don't even bother going. I just don't show up. But like I had people like, yeah, but you might have a good time. You might meet. Like I'm like, I'm not going to assume that if 98% of the people there aren't for me, that I might get lucky with the 2%. That's just not worth my emotional energy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know. I guess for me, I already don't say yes to dating events and stuff. Although I did go on a Shabbaton recently, and I was like, that's so not me. And like, it was an interesting experience. Like, I don't regret going because I think ultimately I did some good networking for the podcast, no matter what.
Is that what
And
you do whenever you go to events? So this person would be a good, guest. Maybe I don't know. And then yeah,
yeah, I try to recruit for the podcast, and like on the Shabbaton, I hung out with friends. Like, I didn't have a bad time. I didn't meet anyone. There was nobody there for me, I don't think. But it did open my eyes to certain things. Like, okay, I know how like I go to events, and like I'm a woman, so like there's always the weird guys. No matter where I am, there are so many weird guys. The Shabbaton also had some weird women. And like it opened my eyes to that there are also weird women. I did meet some interesting people. They just weren't for me. I will say like there were normal guys there in my age range. They just all the ones who were like in my age range who were normal just were like very far out of my religious level. But it still made for good
to the right or to
conversations
the left.
to the right. Yeah, I would say I was like one of the more modern people there. But
Okay.
yeah, it's all learning experiences. That's not one thing that's not something that I regret going to. But yeah, I do say no mostly to dating events. But I'm more talking about like if a friend invites me somewhere and I don't want to go, I'm not going.
Yeah, but you have guilt about it. I don't. I just simply like if a friend's like, "Hey, you want to go grab a bite to eat?" I'm like, "No, I don't. I want to relax and sit on my couch."
So it's less of that, and it's more like, "Oh, come to my party in this like faraway place." And by faraway place, I just mean outside of the city. It's like, no, I don't want to go.
Right. No, I hear that. I think it really depends on. to use the word you used earlier, your vibe. If you're in the mood to socialize and meet people you don't know, it's a worthwhile gamble. For me, it's just how much emotional energy can I invest, whether it's an event or a hangout, whatever it is, and is it worth my time? If my
Yeah.
calculus determines it's not, I don't go.
Yeah. I mean, in general, I like spending time with my friends and I try to show up for my friends. But if it's like going to be more inconvenient for me than I'm actually going to have fun, like, do I want to take three modes of transportation just to like see a friend? Like, no.
No, I hear that. No, I think social life is very important. And I think that's part of the benefit of going to events. If you're someone, not necessarily me or you, but if you're someone that doesn't get out enough, or you're someone who doesn't have that village that you're talking about, going to
Yeah.
events is a good way to meet people, to branch
Yeah.
out, and just sort of open up the box a little bit and spread yourself
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think this would be a good spot to take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsors. So we will be right back. Sticky Situations is sponsored by Corona Crush. Are you tired of swiping on dating apps? Tired of guessing whether the cute guy or girl you keep seeing around is Jewish and or single? Then you need to run, not walk to join Corona Crush. Corona Crush is a Jewish organization working to create Jewish couples always. Corona Crush has over 30 confirmed engagements, over 22,000 members from all over the world, and has set up over 50,000 speed dates. Join the Corona Crush Facebook group and post yourself or have a friend post you and see who reaches out. Fill out the survey to sign up for virtual speed dating events happening every other week. Corona Crush is 100% free and 100% Jewish. Worst case, you end up with some stories of your own. Best case, you find the love of your life. Try it out today. Here on Sticky Situations, we tend to focus on bad dating stories, but sometimes dates do go well and lead to proposals and weddings. Who would have thought? And what do all of those require, you might be asking? Well, the answer is flowers. Who doesn't want flowers from someone they've been seeing? Don't forget, flower petals and bouquets needed for proposals. And that's even before all the flowers that go into weddings. Sticky Situations is sponsored by Primrose Flower Shop. In my opinion, Primrose is the coolest flower shop around and has the best customer service to fulfill all of your floral needs. Primrose offers a range of services from your basic bouquets to subscription services where you can get flowers delivered once a week. They deliver all over the tri state area, including Manhattan. Primrose does weddings, bar and bat mitzvahs, and other simchas. I've personally been to a wedding where Primrose did the flowers, and the work they did was beyond gorgeous. Primrose additionally offers in store proposals, including a romantic setup with candles and music. Primrose is located at 2922 Avenue M in Brooklyn, and the phone number is 929 376 9815. You can also follow Primrose on Instagram at PrimroseNY. So, if you can't get someone out of your head, buy them some flowers from Primrose. They'll either love it or they'll find you really creepy. But regardless, the flowers will be out of this world. Okay, we're back, everybody. Okay, Eitan, do you have any other stories you wanted to share?
I mean, we think we covered a lot of them. I could give like side stories that aren't as like lengthy as that one. That one was a pretty
Sure.
drawn out sort of one. I mentioned this before. This one's less about like an actual date. This was actually more about like a person I worked with, like a shotgun. I brought it up a little earlier about how they like stalked me, but originally I was on a different chat and it was going rather okay. I mean, like a pretty neutral sort of position on it. I didn't really care for her. Like, I don't know if it's a city thing. It was like an aggressive approach, meaning like I would say yes or no, and I would get like as someone who just said earlier, I think it's important to solicit feedback. It was a little bit like they would challenge everything I would say. I don't know if you
Mm-hmm.
ever had this with someone where like they say, "Hey, you want to go out with this guy, or what do you think about this profile?" And they're not for me for XYZ reason, which I I thought was a very valid, legitimate reason. And it was just kind of like I would have to get caught up in these explanations. And I'm just like, this is just, look, I'm not here to debate this. I'm giving you an answer. We can move on. And it was just very not like that. It was like everything was like a little bit more of an argument than it needed to be.
Yeah.
And so eventually I left the chat this person was running, and I was just on a few other chats, which I don't know. Again, chats to me are hit or miss. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And it was like this person was like following me. He's like, I noticed you're on these chats. Why don't you want to deal with mine? And I'm like, okay. I guess we're crossing boundaries off the list here. And it was just kind of like, wow, that was just not what I was expecting. I mean, I've had a lot of like colorful interactions. There was one where I went to a meet the shotgun event at a location, and I met with a lot of them. I didn't hear back from a single one. So it was like, why did I travel so far out of my way to do that?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if you've been there. It sounds like you don't really go the traditional shotgun route, but it's
Not
like,
really. I don't really believe in
yeah, I
shock
mean,
hunts either.
well, yeah, we could have a whole podcast ranting about that.
No,
But
I think everyone's just out for the money these days. All of Sticky Situation Nation knows my stance on shock hunts.
I would say they're all out for the money. What I would say is they're all, so many of them are looking to just help, but their version of helping is to be a very like hands off, like here's a resume, leave me alone, and then if you
Yeah.
get married, pay me like $5,000. But um, I, I get it. I think shadchanim have a very hard job. It's not easy dealing with people, period, in any field, let alone in an area like this, which is very sensitive and there's emotions and there's a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
But I mean to stalk someone on a chat to me is a little much, but um, yeah, I mean I don't know if you've ever had that happen to you or any of your listeners, but that was just a little bit of a okay. I guess we're going down that route. The only other story I had was I mentioned I dated this girl, and it was like okay, you know, there was nothing like definitively positive or negative. Like she was a nice enough person. It was not a negative experience by any stretch, but there was nothing like pulling it, if that makes sense. Have noticed this with myself in my dating career, and I've spoken to friends who sort of feel the same way. The beginning of any like dating venture is often just like icebreakers, feeling a connection, seeing if you have chemistry, basic stuff. And then the sort of difficulty, at least for myself, that I often hit is getting it past that stage. Like I go to like 0 to 100 at the drop. So like it's very hard for me to sort of ease someone into like getting into deeper, meaningful conversations and topics.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I'm just curious your perspective on this. For me, it's just like what you see is what you get. I can
Yeah.
unload my entire secrets in like 5 minutes if you'd like, but like it's just not. It's hard to go from like that initial just icebreaker, catch me up to like deeper stuff, but in like a gradual way because it's like always a delicate balance. You don't want to like delve too deep right too quickly because then you sort of scare them away, but you also don't want it to be not deep enough to the point where it's just sort of like blah.
Yeah. I am also kind of just like I kind of have the inability to keep a thought inside my head. So like if I think something, I'm going to ask it. And like I don't know, sometimes it could get intense, like more intense conversation. I don't think I'm that intense of a person in general. Like I'm not asking like deep philosophical questions, but like it could be like deeper getting to know you questions as opposed to like, oh, what's your favorite color? Like, but also it would be more in the context of like you said, like I'll spill all my secrets in like 5 minutes if someone like I'll spill all my secrets to a stranger. It's actually funny. I went on a first date last week and whatever I can't even remember what we were talking about. It was a very like surface level conversation. And then I ended up like talking about something that was actually like kind of personal, even though like, and I kind of had to be like, I guess also for me, it's interesting because I share so many of my personal details on the podcast. So I guess like what came up was like, and I've talked about this on the podcast about how I did egg freezing. And I forget
Okay.
I forget and, like, in my personal life, like, when I was doing that, I didn't care who it was, like, I would be very open and honest to everybody, wherever I was. Like I went to a wedding. I had to like do my injections at a wedding once, and like I'm talking to the boys sitting at my table who like I'm friendly with, like showing them my my little purse full of needles and drugs. They were for the fertility drugs. They were not other drugs. Like I'm just a very open person, and also stuff like that to me it is personal, but it's also like I think it's people make it so taboo that I want to untaboo it because so many people do it. But
It's interesting you say that. I had an experience once. I was probably, we're talking a couple years ago. I was like 29 at the time, maybe 30. A girl brought that up, but it was like the second date. It was a little bit like, okay, TMI. I don't even know you that well yet. But it sounds like
yeah,
you feel the opposite.
yeah, like I brought it up. It had to do with the context of our conversation. And I was like, "Oh yeah." And I like did my egg freezing. And then I had to be like, "Oh yeah." Also like it is a big deal, but like I was like I'm very open about that. That's like I had to like make sure he knew that wasn't some like secret that I was telling him. I was like, "No, I'm actually like super open about it and talk about it a lot and talk about it on the podcast." So it's like I don't know. It's funny. I had a guy once. I've actually had a couple guys do this to me where they'll throw things back in my face like when things start ending badly. You know. Maybe you don't know. I hope you don't. Like I don't know, things could be going well and then all of a sudden it takes a turn and it's like, "Oh, they start like saying stuff." And like I know this happened at least once where a guy was like, "Oh, but you told me such like personal quote unquote personal things about like past relationships and things like that." And I was like, I hate to break it to you, but like it's not that personal. I've talked about it on my very, very public platform podcasts before. Like you might know it, but so do hundreds, thousands other people who listen to my podcast and who have heard me talk about it multiple times. Like it's not that personal. So I don't know. Maybe
I I get that. I think it depends. Like in this case, it sounds like there was somewhat of a buildup to you opening up about the egg freezing. In my particular case, it was like, oh, how was your weekend? Oh, it was good. I got my eggs frozen. It's like, oh, okay, that's not the direction I imagined when I
oh, I
asked
would
how
say
your
that.
weekend was.
I would 100% say that.
Do
I would
you think that's the
100
appropriate social thing to do?
um I don't know. Because but it's also it's not something when I was doing it, it wasn't it's it's not
I'm saying it's
it,
not something you just bring up as casual gossip. I don't think.
yeah, no, at a Shabbos table, like, oh yeah, I'm doing my egg
No,
freezing.
I'm saying
Like,
we're going out. I obviously that there has to be something you bring up, but like when I asked you how your weekend was, that's not where I was steering that conversation.
I mean, like maybe I would have said it in a less casual manner, like, oh, my weekend was fine. I actually like I had a small procedure, like I actually like froze my like had my egg retrieval for egg freezing. Like, I don't know. I don't think a guy should be put off by that because number one, it makes it sound like it's something that should be secret, and it's really not. I don't
Okay,
know.
would you say the same thing if a girl said to a guy she was on her cycle in the middle of the date?
I mean, I think that is weird, but I think it's also different.
It's different, but it was also weird. It happened to me.
Like, okay, it's an interesting thing to bring up and like I have been dating guys where it is relevant to talk about, but on like a first or second date, like or a guy
It
who
wasn't a first or second date, but I still think it's not something you bring up at all until the relationship is somewhat serious.
I guess I don't know if he's like, "Oh, how are you feeling?" Or like if you're really not feeling well and it's because of that, it's like, "Oh, actually like I'm on my period and I'm having really really bad cramps right now, so like that's why I don't feel good." Like that's why I'm like acting off.
I hear. I
Like
guess to me, it's just something
I wouldn't
gone.
say it on a I wouldn't say it on a first date. I wouldn't say it on a second date. Like I don't really talk about that unless someone is like we're in a relationship, but I don't like I don't think women should be shamed for women go through so much. Like
You don't have to be shamed, but you can understand why that's a tad too personal when you're not that deep into a relationship.
yeah, I don't know. I think it would depend on the context of it.
Like to me, I wouldn't discuss, for example, I had, let's say I have a very, I mean, I do, but let's say I had a very difficult relationship with a family member. Like that's not something I'm going to bring up early on in a dating relationship. That's something as we get to discuss, like familial background, things like that. Then I would delve into that a little bit. Now, granted, it's not the same thing. One's physiological and one's a relationship, but I don't know. I just think I'm not going to say it's taboo. I would never say something's taboo. I just think you don't, like I said, it's a delicate balance because you don't want to get too personal too quickly. You also don't want to just talk about the weather and how your job was, and that is all you
Yeah.
talk about for 4 days. It's a
Yeah.
slippery slope. Is all I'm saying.
No, I agree, and like I'm not really one to talk. I mean, the egg freezing, yeah, like I would casually mention it if it's relevant to the conversation. If I'm on my period, maybe I'm not gonna mention that unless it's relevant to the conversation. But like at the same on the same token, like if if you're on a date and you have a migraine, like and you're just like acting off, would you say like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, like I got a really, really bad headache." Like,
I would just say I'm feeling very sick. I'm under the weather. I wouldn't specify what specific illness is ailing me.
okay, that's fair. Yeah, okay, so if I had like period cramps, I would maybe say like, just like not feeling that great.
Right. To me, that's the more appropriate way to express that you're not feeling
But
100%.
but some people are diggers. And some people are like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay? What's wrong?" And then I'd be like, "Oh, I'm having cramps." Like,
No, and again, I think there's a stage in a relationship where that it's saying something like that is not totally off base. I just think, like in the case of the both cases, I mean, when she told me she was on her cycle, we were. I'm not gonna say it was serious. First of all, it was a COVID like relationship, so like it was very on and off communication. All those fun ones where you had to Zoom and then you could only meet in person, like a designated place. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
yeah.
So it was a very like inconsistent build up to begin with. The other one was just like I don't know. It sounds like you're more open to having that as something you could just bring up randomly. I was a little off putted by it because it was just so early on and it was a little bit like, okay, I did not mean. Also, I was younger. Again, this wasn't like it's funny because this came up. I dated a girl. Honestly, she was 38 or 39. I don't remember. Maybe even closer to 40. I'm not sure. And one of the people who suggested it's like, do you want me to ask her if she froze her eggs? And I didn't really know how to answer that because, like, generally speaking, isn't something I haven't dated many 38, 39 year olds for to be clear to all your listeners. But I mean, the only reason I dated even went out with her because that's way above what I would normally consider like a reasonable age difference. The person who suggested it was like a person I trusted very, very much, and I didn't think they would send me an idea that was off base. To me, it was just like the age thing was something that I was like, I don't know how I feel about it, especially again, like for men anyway there's a requirement to have children. For women, it's not a requirement. I'm not going to get into specifics, but it's just it's not something that you can just sort of waive your obligations on. It's a legitimate requirement. And if a person's like, you know, older and they can't have kids, that's maybe a little different. But I'm not in that stage yet, thankfully. So it was like a very like big whirlwind of different things. And I didn't even like ask the question ultimately. I determined like I didn't need to know. Like let's just meet up and see how it goes and then we can sort of navigate that afterwards. But I mean that's a little different. But like I know people like I dated a girl once. She had a very like serious genetic disorder,
Mm-hmm.
but it was not something that could be carried into if she had kids. Like it was not. I didn't really get the science, but the way they explained it to me was that the if she had kids, it would not be a problem. So that's why it didn't matter to me. But like that to me is a little different than what we're talking about here. But I'm just saying is that there's a lot of different nuance to a lot of these things. Like I don't think there's hard and fast rules about when, how, where to bring these things up. I just think a person
Yeah.
has to be comfortable with the other person to the point where he's not or she's not going to be, whoa, that's a little bit too much.
Yeah. No, and like when I brought it up, it wasn't like super casual, but it was. But also, it was just funny because I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot. Like, he doesn't know me. He doesn't know that I walk around my whole neighborhood talking about it. Like, I bring it up at Shabbos meals. I talk about it because I want people to talk about it. I talk about it on my podcast. Like, to me, I don't talk about it at work. I think work is not an appropriate place to talk about certain things like that. But work is also not an appropriate place to talk about a lot of personal things. But yeah, it's like sometimes early dating stages are complicated because like they don't know that like I just say whatever I think. Like he doesn't know that about me yet. But yeah, I don't know. I wanted to go back to what you said just to like hit home one of my a point we were talking about before about the being picky thing. I would like to remind all of my listeners because you mentioned this, you're the one who brought it up, but I did have this conversation recently with a guy when it comes to men being so picky. The obligation to have children and be married is on a man. So, like, I think men need to stop being so picky about stupid things because at the end of the day, like, I don't know. I think a lot of, and you can disagree with me. I know a lot of some guys do, but from a woman's perspective, everything like especially like in the more like, from shadchans and things like that, everything seems to be in the man's like the ball is in the man's court and he has all like a lot of the power. And I've found that the more difficult people to work like when I try to set people up, the ones to say no more are the men. And I think we just need to be reminded that the obligation is on the man. So,
It's interesting you say that. I've often had this belief, and I'm not sold on it, but I do fully, for the most part, believe this. Guys are much more particular about who they date. Girls are much more particular once they start dating a guy. They start to really like dissect it. Like a guy, if he
because
meets a girl, he finds her attractive and he likes the personality, they have chemistry, and everything's great for the most part. Pretty much ready to commit to her fully. With girls, it's I don't know. They need time, they need a process, and girls are pretty a lot more open about like the person or people they say yes to. But it's not a hard and fast rule. I know plenty of men that are extremely picky, and I've met plenty of women that are as picky, if not more picky, than the guys. So I I,
yeah.
I don't think it's a gender thing. I think it's my perspective in general is people need to get their head out of the rear end and just sort of just say yes to a nice person and go from there.
Yeah. No, so I think I agree with what you said. Like, yes, there are outliers, but from my personal experience of what I've seen are like what you said, women are more likely to give something a chance, but maybe like it doesn't work out, but they're still giving someone a chance. And a guy will say no to like even giving someone, which I think is bad because I think there's only so, like we were saying before, there's only so much you can tell about a person from their resume, from a picture, from a profile. Like, talk to the person, meet them. If
Let
you
me
don't
ask you
like,
this: do you think if you go out with someone and then say no pretty quickly, would you determine or define that as giving it a chance? Because I wouldn't personally.
um, I don't think you have to give someone. I think it depends on the situation because
Okay, I think that's fair.
because I'll say, like I said, I will usually say yes to a phone call. And sometimes on the phone call, I can tell that it's just like not going to be a match. Like sometimes if you know someone is super off base for you, like personality wise, hashkafa wise, lifestyle wise, like I think it's okay to not like you don't have to go on like multiple dates with them. Like if you know from the
So
the
you're
get
talking about from
go.
a phone call. That I agree with. But I think once you've agreed to go out with them,
Hmm.
like, again, nothing is going to be gold dust from the start in any area of life. It's just that's just not how life works. Like things don't automatically instantaneously hit and everything's amazing. I say this about myself and a lot of other people. I think people have unrealistic expectations, and I,
Yeah.
I would go a step further. I think people in general, if you ask them So you're trying to get married. What do you think marriage is? I don't think people come up with a very decent answer. Like a lot of times people are just like, I don't know, it's what people do when they get older. Even if they don't say that, they'll come up with some like word salad to like explain what they really want. But I don't think people really understand what it takes to invest in a relationship. As someone who's single and has not been married, like it's easy for me to say that because I've never been married, but I know plenty of people that just their approach to dating is like, I want to find a nice, pretty girl who, and that's pretty much where the conversation ends. And for women, it's whatever. I want a nice guy who's going to sweep me off the horse. But like, I think people need to just sort of adjust expectations to reality and
Yeah.
realize that not everybody you're going to meet is going to be a 10 out of 10. It's just not going to happen. And if you're trying to get married and you're like myself in your early 30s, you can't be so caught up in externals and in the minutiae of the detail. Obviously, there are
Yeah.
certain things you need, but if it's more than two to three things, I tell people all the time, then you're not really trying. Like
Yeah.
if you say no to like every idea thrown your way, she's not pretty enough, she's got her nose weird, or he doesn't have a good enough job, or whatever the subjective thing is, because I don't think it's like a one thing. I think maybe it's a generational thing, maybe it's just the singles world we live in is that people just need to. Now, again, there are things you shouldn't compromise on. Like for myself, as someone who's admittedly more to the right, if a person's style of dress is not what I'd want in a spouse, I'm not going to say yes, even if they're gorgeous and amazing midos or whatever other subjective characteristic it is, because I just our values are not aligned. Like to me,
Yeah.
I wouldn't date someone who doesn't keep Shabbos, and it's the same thing to me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think somebody, yeah. I think you need to pick your things, and you can't have, like, okay, I think I decided this earlier this year, actually. Like, this is like a more recent discovery, and I've talked about it on the podcast. I think any relationship is going to have a certain amount of settling to it, and you need to, like, actually be firm with what your deal breakers are, because you're never, like you said, you're never going to get everything on your little checkbox. And I'm not saying you need to compromise on your values or like the super, super important things, but not everything is a deal breaker.
Correct. That's why I tell people all the time. I don't like. It's a better question to ask. What are your deal breakers than it is like what are the things you're looking for in a spouse? Because that the question of what are you looking for in a spouse is so vague. You could say a
Yeah.
million things and it might all be true. Like I need
Yeah.
someone who's like I see this all the time, family oriented. First of all, I have no idea what that means because like
I
to me
have no
that's
idea
just a
what
nice
that means
word.
either.
I'm like,
I
okay,
actually
you want
I don't
someone who
like that.
wants to build a Torah or wants to build a warm family or wants to have a supporting wife and kids. Name me a single today's day and age that isn't looking for that. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? You need to be
Yeah.
specific and you need to get people to attempt to get to know you, whether it's shadchanim or singles themselves. Like that's why I don't really pay much. I mean, I'll look at a resume, I'll make whatever reference calls, but targeted matchmaking, as I guess the point I'm making, is that that's what the focus should be. Well, if you're working with a shotgun, if you're doing what you're doing, it's probably a little bit of a different calculus. But I think the idea is that it shouldn't just be let's throw an idea into thin air and hopefully it lands where I want it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, Eton, do you have any other stories, conversation topics, anything else that we haven't already addressed that you would like to talk about before we get to our wrap up segment?
How much time do we have? No, I'm kidding. There's always more to talk about. Nothing's like jumping out to me. I mean, there's like a million and one ideas you could talk about in the dating world, but nothing is like smacking me in the face at this moment.
Okay. So I guess we'll move on to the wrap up segment. So, okay, so I know we've been talking, giving advice, everything throughout the whole episode, but Eitan, can you please give me and my listeners one piece of dating advice?
One piece of dating advice. That's a good question. I think the most basic one, and I think it's falls in line with what we said before. Be open, and when I say be open, I mean be extremely open. I think people limit themselves too much, and you're not targeting people in Texas or LA, but don't fall into the trap of thinking that your bashert or your match or your whatever word you'd like to use is only going to be in the New York tri-state area, or it's only going to be in this specific area. Hakadosh Baruch Hu has many different ways of working and sending people, the right people at the right time. And to put yourself in the best position to be able to do that, you have to be open and a receptive ear for that. So I think people need to be looser with some things and really just open your mind and eyes up a little bit, and you'll be surprised at the outcome.
I like that. And then, okay, so we were just talking about deal breakers and wants. So my this is my new segment. So Eitan, can you tell? I mean, unless you don't want to, can you, in case any of my listeners might have an idea for Eitan, can you tell us your three deal breakers and then three wants?
She has to be gorgeous, have a million. No, I'm kidding. Deal breakers. So for me, I mean, a lot of them are cliche, but for me, the big one is like Hashkafa compatibility. I think based on my background, people have pre-formulated ideas about where I'm coming from, and it's just I've had a harder time navigating the differences. For me, I would call myself like a modern yeshivish. I'm not so into labels, but I think having someone who wants a specific lifestyle that I currently live is very important to me. So someone who does not fit that mold is probably not going to really work. That's probably number one. A certain level of, definitely good midos. I try to be someone who works very hard on himself. So someone who is not just everything handed to them on a silver platter. They're expecting to, like, roll up their sleeves and get working. Because newsflash to anybody, I don't think this is exactly rocket science, but life is not a cakewalk, and you need to have healthy, hardworking effort muscles to be able to navigate the ups and downs. It's not always such a straight, up like an elevator way. So I think that's another one. I mean, hardworking is like a vague one because people can be hardworking, but and then you meet them and it's just really not. Uh, the other one I would put out there, and I don't know that it's the way I'm going to define it is what people mean by it, but I'm a very honest person, and I mean to a fault almost. Like it gets me into trouble sometimes. But finding someone who can appreciate that, like I've had times at work where I was told to do something that was morally questionable. I'm not going to go so far as to say it was downright wrong, but it was questionable. And to me, if it's even like a hint of something foul, I'm not doing it. So someone who appreciates that, like I was in a job once actually where they wanted me to sort of fudge the numbers. I was working in a payroll company, and I was basically like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I ended up losing my job for it. But that's
Oh wow.
another story for another day. But those are the three like big ones for me, like honesty, integrity, hardworking, and hashkafa compatibility. And that's not even including the personality, all the other fun things people love to throw in that pot. But like those are the like main ones to me. Someone who's like a mentor, balas midos, whatever we want to call it. Yeah. And then three things that are on my quote unquote list, right? That was the next question.
Yeah, like three deal breakers and three wants.
Yes, those are. I'm not sure which category I have to put that in. I guess those were deal breakers, but I guess three wants: someone put together, someone who's going to be like a caring wife and mother, someone who's not going to be judgmental if the person's coming from a unorthodox family background. I'm going to use that term. It's a little play on words there. And I guess what else? Yeah, I guess someone who's going to appreciate me. I don't like maybe that's cliche as it comes, but like that's probably where I would put it.
Okay. Those are all good. So if anybody has any suggestions for Aton, please feel free to reach out. You can send me a DM on Instagram at Shaky Situations Pod or an email at shakysituationspod@gmail.com. And I'll give you guys mine, even though I say it every episode. But I just started getting it right the last couple episodes. So I'll say my three deal breakers. Number one, I need a good person, like someone who's kind, respectful, just like a good human. Number two is going to be financially responsible and career driven, I guess. Like someone who has a good job and has the same financial values that I do, and same financial and career values that I do, which having a good job, being able to support a family, being able to support a lifestyle. And number 3 is gonna be Hashkafa. So I need someone who keeps Shabbos, mostly keeps kosher, and also someone who's, like, gonna let me do what I do religiously if they're coming from the other end of the spectrum, like, someone who's gonna respect that I can make my own personal choices when it comes to my body and religion, where it doesn't affect them, and I'll do the same for them. And then 3 things that I want: someone with a good personality. I think I have a good personality, so I want someone who, they don't have to be, like, loud like I am. They don't have to be as outspoken and outgoing as I am, but I need someone who can hang a little bit and someone who appreciates my personality. Someone who is age appropriate. I guess loosely, I would say I like to date people around my own age. My coworkers actually told me a couple weeks ago that I am Gen Z, even though I'm very much not Gen Z. But I get along better with people who are around my own age. So a few years younger, a few years older. If I had to put numbers on it, I would say like 27, 28 to like 35, 36. And then also someone who values their health. And they don't have to be like crazy about it, but like I don't want someone who smokes. I don't want someone who does drugs. I don't want someone who drinks excessively. I would like someone who like tries to eat healthy and goes to the gym, but also someone who knows balance because we're going to split french fries. So, yeah. So those are mine. And okay, Eitan, last but not least, what is your tagline?
So I had to think a lot more on this than I really would have given myself credit, to be honest, because this is really not my area of expertise. But the thing I came up with, and I don't know if it's good, I don't know if it's bad, but I'm not here to play games, but when I play games, I win. So like that's just
I like that.
what
It's
I
a
would.
good one. It's good. It's
Yeah,
cute. Well, Eitan, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
yeah. Thank you for having me. It's definitely been a pleasure.
Of of course. And Sticky Situation Nation, you'll catch me next time. Bye, everybody.